All right, welcome back, everyone. We are going to be looking at section 1.4, part 2, literal equations today. A literal equation, in case you're not aware, is an equation that uses at least two different variables. So a lot of times you come across these in science if you're looking at different formulas or ways to convert different things. But a couple notes before we jump into our examples today, just some tips to type these into Delta Math. If you ever need to type an exponent or a power, you're going to hold the Shift and 6 key on your keyboard. That will move your cursor up, type in your power or your exponent. When you're finished, you can either just click on the answer box or you can press the right arrow to move your cursor back down. Another thing you might need to do in this section is type fractions. You press the slash key to do a fraction, but one thing you do need to be careful, if you need to put more than one thing in a fraction, you either need to put the top of the numerator or the top of your fraction in parentheses, or highlight it and then press the slash. It'll put the whole thing over a fraction. So for example, if you wanted to type x plus 2 over 2, like have the whole thing over 2, you could type in your answer box parentheses x plus 2, then type the slash and then type 2. It would give you the whole thing over 2. So if you're trying to put more than one thing over 2, that's one way you can do it. If you're having trouble, call us over. We'll help you with this. But just a couple kind of tips how to type these into Delta Math. Sometimes can be a little bit tricky. All right, so let's jump into our examples. So we have single step literal equations, so they should take a single step to solve. We'll see kind of how we do with these. So always read the directions when you're working on these in Delta Math to see what they want you to solve for. They want us to solve or get a by itself. So we really want to get rid of that 2/3 in front. So you might be tempted from what you saw on Friday to try and divide, because technically that is multiplication. But when you're dealing with fractions, another way you can get, if you have a fraction in front that you can get rid of, is to multiply by its reciprocal. If you don't remember what reciprocal means, it might sound familiar from geometry, but it's the flipped version of your fraction. So we're going to multiply both sides by 3 over 2, or 3/2. The reason this works is when you multiply a fraction by its reciprocal, it cancels out, because 3 times 2 is 6 up top, 2 times 3 on the bottom is 6, so 6 over 6 is 1. Basically, when you multiply a fraction by itself, it turns into 1, but basically goes away. So we would just have a equals, and I usually kind of flip it around. I put the 3/2 in front, so it'd be 3 over 2 n up to the 3rd power. And that would be our solution. In Delta Math, you would just type in this, what it equals. You want to type a equals, you would just type the right-hand side of our equation. How about you guys try this second problem, though? How would you get a by itself? So you're trying to get rid of that minus b. See if you can do this problem or give it a shot before we go over it. All right, so assuming you gave this a try, remember our goal is to get a by itself, so we want to get rid of this negative b. So to get rid of a negative variable, you're going to add it or plus it to the other side, because that will cancel. And then on the right side, we'll just have a, which is our goal. Remember, we're trying to get a by itself. That's what it means to solve for a. So on this left-hand side, you might be, well, what the heck is g plus b going to be? Well, there's really not much you can do with it. They're different variables. We don't know what they are. So you're just going to kind of write what you have. You have capital G plus lowercase b. And that's your answer. You can't really do anything else with it. This was what I have underlined in purple is what you would put in Delta Math. That's what a equals. Be careful in Delta Math, by the way. If it's a lowercase letter, make sure you lowercase it. If it's a capital letter, make sure you capitalize it. All right, let's jump into our multi-step equations, our literal equations. So this one, we're trying to get b by itself. So like I said, always read the directions to see what they want you to solve for. So we're trying to get b by itself. So the first thing we can deal with is this r. So similar to basically kind of what we just did in this previous question, you would add the r. That cancels out. So we just have on this right side 4 over 3b. On this left-hand side, there's really not much you can do. So just keep those added together, f plus r. And now we want to get rid of this 4/3. So remember, you can multiply by the reciprocal. So that would be the fraction, but flipped. We got to do it to both sides. So that would just cancel. So we'd have b by itself, which is what our goal was. And then on this left-hand side, you do need to be careful. You really need to multiply both parts of these by 3/4, or basically just put a 3/4 in front of both of these variables. So you'd have 3/4 f plus 3/4 r. How about you give this last one a try? See if you can get b by itself. All right, assuming you gave this a try, the first thing you'd want to do is subtract the m. So if you do that on the left side, you're just going to have t minus capital M. That cancels. You'll have b d. We're trying to get b by itself, so this is b times d. So to get rid of that d, you could just divide it to the other side. So that's going to cancel. We'll just have b. And we're just going to divide this whole side by d. And there's really not anything you do. So, I mean, your answer is going to be lowercase t minus capital M all over d. And I know this seems strange and it looks weird, but you're really just following those same steps you've seen before. This is what you would type in the delta math for these two. And as people are finishing up this video, I'm just going to ask that you guys try this challenge question. This is an example from a science class where this would be very common to see literal equations. You're going to try and solve this equation that's tells you how to get Celsius in temperature. You're going to try and solve it for F, or come up with a formula to solve for Fahrenheit if you know Celsius. So we'll go over this question shortly together. But if you're waiting and kind of bored, you're welcome to load up Delta Math and start some of those problems. I hope this goes well, but if you need any help, please call myself or Mrs. DeSalvo over. Have a good one, everyone.